Shri Sai Ram, Gita Vahini, by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba. Chapter 11. Meditation is the inner discipline for the knowledge of self or jnana. How can such easy living and comfort-loving persons or disciples attain moksham or liberation if a guru is not able to secure such squandering disciples? Why should he deplore his failure? He suffers no loss, isn't it? However, it is strange that there are gurus who feel the loss and lament when they are not able to attract such disciples towards them. Opium eaters, ganja smokers are, alas, unfit to be gurus, and such imprudent disciples too are not worthy of the title of disciple. They are cheats. How can those who spend their energies in securing the wherewithal for their living be gurus? How can those who seek to fulfill their sensual fancies be shishyas or disciples? These are dhanam, money-oriented gurus. Those are madam, self-conceited or proud shishyas. To consider such as gurus and shishyas is to drag those holy names into the dust of disgrace. Who then is the genuine guru? It is he who teaches the path of destroying moha or delusion. And who is the genuine shishya or disciple? It is he who seeks to control and conquer the vishya vasanas or sensory attachments. The gurus of today vomit the highest philosophy every day from the platforms that they stuffed into their heads the previous day under the midnight lamp. Their performance is only like regurgitating the food once swallowed and nothing more. They talk like parrots. So correctly do they reproduce what they have learnt by rote. They loudly and clearly emphasize the need to subjugate and conquer the Arishad Vargas or the sixfold beasts of inner enemies: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada and Matsarya, that is desire or lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, envy. But in these very people, demons of Kama and Krodha, Irsha, envy and Dvesha, hatred and Durasa or greed pop up their devilish heads every now and then through very little words that they utter and through every little deed they do. If those who claim to be gurus do not themselves master these propensities, how can the unfortunate disciples who resort to them for guidance be successful? Well, provided the guru is supremely self-sacrificing, completely devoid of raga or affection or attachment and hatred or dvesha, and saturated with sarvajanya samana prema or unconditional love towards all, his words ever infused with true wisdom, always striving for the well-being of all mankind through his sat chintanam or sacred thoughts, teach others sanmargam, that is noble path, and noble qualities sadgunam in simple and easily understandable ways. Then only few disciples will gather around him. They will impose upon such sacred guru faults that sully him and cast doubt upon his integrity and genuineness. That is the evil fate of the victims of such doubts. The guru, however, suffers no loss. The loss is all for the shishyas who let go of the great chance. Of one thing be certain, so long as the deha bhranti or the body consciousness is not cast aside, God cannot be realized. However far one may wander, and whatever the number of gurus one might select and serve, stick to that delusion, and all the dhyana or meditation, all the japa, that is repetition of the God's name, all the waters of the all holy tirthams or sacred waters that you bathe in cannot win success for you. All that effort is as useless as trying to bail out water with a vessel riddled with leaks. Householders who carry out their duties are any day preferable to such sadhakas. They follow their ashrama dharmam unerringly and they adhere to path in unceasing remembrance of the Lord, and so these householders realize the goal. Well, if the nature of the gurus and the shishyas of today is to be considered, volumes can be written. But that will be using precious time for unessential discussion. So, we shall revert to our main topic. For even to dwell on the sacred Guru-Shishya bond of Krishna-Arjuna in the same breath with the relationship of the present-day Gurus and Shishyas will be a sacrilege. They are unique, incomparable, the supreme pair, unapproachable by any other. They have to be taken as the ideal by all aspirant and teachers. Arjuna was a noble Shishya who carried out the precepts of the Guru with humility and sincerity. Krishna fostered what was really beneficial to Arjuna. He paid full consideration to what will really promote the kirti or reputation, the Atma Anandam or the bliss of realization of the self, and the dharma of Arjuna. He tended him and fended him as the very breath of his life. That was the type of Guru the Lord was for him. Krishna is Paramatma, Supreme Soul. Arjuna is Jivatma, individual soul. Krishna is Purushottama, Lord of all, most exalted of all beings. Arjuna is Narottama, best among human beings. That is the reason why they are the ideal Guru Shishya. Others are Guru Shishya only in name. Self-willed Shishyas and power-drunk Gurus are simply wasting their lives in vain pursuits. Krishna's prema is boundless. He watched over Arjuna as one watches over the eye on the face or the heart in the body. He taught holiness and transformed into holiness. He loved and was loved beyond comparison. That makes the Guru a genuine Guru. And Arjuna, he too is no ordinary being. His tyaga is unapproachable. Whatever the crisis, he stuck to Krishna's command and Krishna's word. He regarded and believed Krishna's body as his very own and took charge of its well-being, and for that sake, he was even prepared to give away his life. He is such a mighty person. This is how Guru and Shishya should be bound together. Lord Krishna, who is the embodiment of prema or love, first explained the dualities of a genuine Guru and Shishya and then detailed to him the benefits and magnanimity of Atma Jnana as follows. Kaunteya, or the son of Kunti, he said, by the power of Jnana at first you can have the vision of all beings in yourself and then in me. Then Ajnana or ignorance and the consequent moha will disappear just as the Surya Udyam or the rising sun dispels the darkness. Jnana Udyam, the dawn of Jnana, dispels the Ajnana. Arjuna, I know well your past background of your birth and your future as well. Yours is no ordinary birth. You are born with Devi Sampada or divine qualities. I alone am aware of it, no one else. Since you are unaware of it, you are deluded to condemn yourself as a papi or sinner who kills kith and kin, teachers and elders. Are not sinners allowed to acquire wisdom and be saved? Paschatapam or repentance is enough to transmute you into pavitrata or sanctity. The Lord graciously accepts contrition and destroys all sins with his blessings. The Ratanakara, who was engaged in acts of sin until the moment when wisdom dawned, became a saint through repentance and became sage. Valmiki, is it not? His story is proof of the value of contrition. You may ask, is it enough if one is free from the effects of sin? Should not the effects of punya or good deeds be also given up? One has freedom to give up merits of punya, though one may not have equal freedom to give up the demerit of papa or sin. Therefore, one may give up the merit of punya as per their wish. The roaring forest fire reduces to ashes everything in its way. So too, the mighty conflagration of jnana will consume and destroy all papa and all punya. To acquire this sacred spiritual jnana, one thing is essential, shraddha, that is unwavering faith. Shraddha does not only mean having unwavering faith in the Shastras and the Gurus and in acquisition of jnana. More importantly, it means having unwavering faith in the self or self-confidence. Without Shraddha, no task, however tiny, can be accomplished by man. Therefore, you can yourself see how essential Shraddha is for accomplishing the life-giving task of earning jnana. Shraddha is not something slight and common. It is the incomparable treasure chest that contains coveted possessions of sama, the control of internal instruments, that is the mind, and dhamma, control of the external senses, uparati, that is desisting from sensual enjoyments, and titiksha, staying neutral in dualities, and samadhana, single-pointed concentration, samadhyana. Well, you may be under the impression that this Shraddha alone is enough to get jnana. No, this alone is not enough. You must have the keen yearning or asakti to imbibe the teachings I am imparting. This asakti too is very necessary. Along with these two, you must be vigilant to not yield to somaritanam or sloth. Despite having these two qualities of Shraddha and asakti, there is a high risk of contracting sangadosham or blemish or wise ill habit or ill quality acquired from falling into evil company. To overcome this sangadosham, it is required to have indriyani graham or the mastery over the senses. Do not admit some sayam or doubt into you. A Shraddha, want of faith, is not as destructive as samyasam. In its operation and consequence, samyasam will totally consume the sadhaka. Samsayam is born in a jnana and it penetrates into the cavity of the heart of man to breed there. It is the parent of all disasters. Therefore, first destroy this demon of sansham or doubt with the sword of self-knowledge or atma jnanam. Arise, Arjuna, engage in karma. As kartavya, bound in duty, have sampurna vishwasam or full faith in my words. Do as I command with no thought of phalaupeksha. Then you become a practitioner of nishkama karma or engaging in actions without expecting any reward. By renouncing phalapeksha, you will get established in jnanam and win moksha. Arjuna, give up the idea of kartavya or doership and phalapeksha. How can you do this? By Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, that is attitude of dedicating both deed and fruit to the Lord. Then no sin can affect you. Like the oil on tongue, just like the oil on tongue, collyrium on the eye, lotus leaf on water, the Nishkama Karma yogi is untouched by any deed. Whatever he does or hears or sees, he is still a non-doer. All the experiences derived from the external world open the gateways of sukham and dukham, that is joy and grief. They are fleeting in nature, but you are above and beyond all this. The Atma Swarupam, the real form, is self. Itself, you are verily the Jnana Swarupam, the embodiment of sacred wisdom. That is your genuine nature. You are unrelated to these activities that are called karmas or deeds. You are not the karta or doer. You are just a sakshi or the witness, the seer. All your samyasams or doubt, all your sanchayams or doubts or perplexities have arisen from the bhranti or delusion caused by abhimanam or body, consciousness, and mamakaram attachments evolve into a brahmagyani. Engage in karmas but renounce the fruits of karmas. Karma phala tyagi is far superior to the karma tyagam. Karma yoga is far superior to karma sannyasa. Well, superior to both these is dhyana yoga. Dhyana yoga needs the support of karma yoga, and so the karma yoga was first taught to you, Arjuna. Those who renounce the fruits while actively engage in kartavya karma as kartavya are very dear to me. They are the true sannyasins, the real renouncers. I never bestow affection on those who give up the ritual fire and desist from all activity except eating, sleeping, and craving for sensory pleasures, and behave like Kumbhakarna's kinsmen, idling and wasting their time. I am unapproachably far from idlers. He who has not renounced the pursuit of wishes can never become a yogi. Despite being engaged in various sadhanas, only he who is careful not to get entangled in the senses and who is unattached to the consequences of his deeds can become a sarva sangha parityagi, that is, renouncer of all worldly attachments. Dhyana yoga is possible only on the basis of this nishkama karma. If the mind is not under control and amenable to one's orders, it can become one's greatest foe. So you must become a jitendriya, that is, one who has mastered all his senses, live in solitude and master jitendriyas or mind and senses. A horse without reins, a bull unused to the yoke, and a sadhaka whose senses are not mastered are all like a river without water. Such sadhana is a waste. So arise, Arjuna, practice dhyana yoga, resolve to master the mind through this yoga and follow it steadily, systematically, regularly, at a stated time and in a stated place, without changing the time and place as the whim takes you. Krama, that is a systematic and regular practice, is the main anga or the component for this yoga. Observe it strictly. Do not alter the system as fancy dictates, that will bring about dire consequences for those who eat too much and get exhausted with the task of assimilating it, for those who eat less and suffer from exhaustion caused by want of sustenance, for those who sleep too much or too little, for those who indulge in dhyana according to convenience, for those who give free rein to the sadrapus or the 6 inner enemies, that is kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada and matsarya, for those who cause mental distress to parents and especially who disappoint their mother. More than all these, for those who entertain sanchayam, doubt, and avishwasam, want of faith in the Lord, avishwasam, want of faith in the Lord or in the Guru whom they have chosen and installed in their hearts, dhyana will yield no fruit at all, regardless of any number of years of practice. The mind of the adept in yoga should be like the steady, upright, unshaken flame of the lamp, kept in the windowless sill. Whenever the slightest sign of unsteadiness occurs, you should endeavor to curb the mind and not allow it to wander as the whim takes it. The one who evolves into awareness that he or she is in everything and experiences the oneness that everything is in him or her can take up and succeed in all the yogas. Then one is free from all distinctions like Parululu. Parulu, that is fellow beings, others, or Paramatma, super being. The joy and grief of others will then become equally yours. You can never harm others. Then all will be loved and adored in the awareness that they are Sarveshwara or the Lord. Lord Krishna declared that those who have attained this bhavam or awareness or spirit are really the supreme yogis. Meanwhile, Arjuna, the disciple, is beset by doubt and Arjuna, the disciple, is beset by doubt and he asks for elucidation and explanation so that he may get convinced. Krishna, all that you have been telling me is very pleasant to the ear, and I can well imagine that must be a source of ananda to those who attain success. But it is also difficult to practice beyond the reach of all. The yoga wherein everything has to be realized as samatattvam or the uniform conduct towards all is fraught with obstacles even for the fully equipped sadhaka. What then am I to say of people like me who are common aspirants? Is it ever possible for us? Let us leave the sadhana or spiritual practice aside, Krishna. What is it about the mind? Is the mind so easily controllable? Alas, even an elephant cannot drag as the mind does. It is the nursery of waywardness. The fickleness of the mind has become proverbial. Its shobha or the agitation is also very substantial and powerful. It is a terrible shrew. It can never be caught. It will never halt at one place. It is like capturing the wind in the palm of the hand or bundling up water. The attempt to catch the mind and tame it. How can anyone succeed in such yoga? With such a mind, one seems as hard as the other. The twin task of controlling the mind and practicing the yoga. Krishna, you are advising an impossible task beyond the capacity of anyone. The Lord broke into a smile on hearing these words. Arjuna, you have observed the mind and known its nature very well. But it is not at all an impossible task, however difficult the task might be, but by abhyasa or systematic and steady practice, vichara or relentless inquiry, and vairagya, that is, observance of detachment, the mind can be mastered gradually and then the task can be accomplished. There is no task that cannot be accomplished by abhyasa or practice. Placing faith in the Lord and practicing with Atma Vishwasam or self-confidence can help achieve even the most difficult tasks. Therefore, whoever enters upon this yoga with diksha or determination will be successful and attain Parama Siddhi or the supreme accomplishment. Parama Siddhi or the supreme accomplishment, completely devoid of the slightest blemish, transmuted through several births. Remember, Yoga Siddha, the one who has achieved success in yoga, is superior to Tapovanta or the ascetic. Jnani, the one who has procured spiritual knowledge, and Karma Nishtha, the one who is the master of prescribed karmas. So, strive, O Arjuna, to become a yogi, to attain that high and holy status. That is not all you have to do. There is a status higher than even this. Whoever fixes his chitta or mind entirely on me and meditates on me with shraddha or unwavering faith to the exclusion of everything else, he is superior to all. He is Mahayogi. This Dhyana Yoga or the path of contemplation or meditation on the awareness of oneness or supreme reality is Antaranga Sadhana. It refers to one of the threefold processes that leads to enlightenment. Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana are the three Antaranga sadhanas, that is hearing, reflection, and contemplation or meditation. It may also mean dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Please refer to chapter 14 of Gita Vahini for Jnana Yoga path of knowledge. Dhyana Yoga is based on Shraddha, unwavering faith, and Bhakti, love for God. Without these two, Dhyana Yoga is unattainable. Such pursuit is a vain. A sadhaka deprived of them is as a wooden doll, lifeless, unaware of his goal or powers. The basic requisite for all these is deep-rooted prema, that is love towards the Lord. And love for God is known as bhakti or devotion. How can one get established in bhakti firmly? By getting to know the glory, the splendor, the nature and characteristics of the Lord, His swabhava and swarupa, that is the reality. That is why I am now instructing you about the swabhavam and swarupam of the Lord. Listen carefully. I am imparting to you fully the Shastra Jnanam. There is nothing further you need to know after this. Of the thousands of aspirants, there are few who strive to acquire this jnana or wisdom, and of these only one single individual achieves success by attaining me. All who start do not reach the goal. So Arjuna, note that there is nothing higher than me in any of the worlds. All are strung in me like flowers on a string. Panchabhutas, or the five elements, Manas, Buddhi, Ahamkara, that is mind, intellect and ego, these eightfold Prakriti, material energy, have produced the entire Sukshma Jada Prapancha, the subtle and the insentient inert in creation. This is called Apara Prakriti, lower energy. There is another Prakriti distinct from this, that is Para Prakriti, superior energy or soul energy. It is distinct from Jada, that is inert, lifeless or gross. It is Chaitanyam, consciousness or life force, as Jiva Rupa or life force. In fact, the entire Jagat or world has Chaitanyam as its vesture. So, the Apara Prakriti is Jada and the Para Prakriti is Chaitanyam. The Lord first created the Jada Prapancha or the material energy or gross world, and then as Jiva or soul energy, He Himself entered into it and rendered it with Chaitanyam or consciousness or life force. This is declared clearly in the Vedas. You must consider the Apara Prakriti to be the Swabhavam of Parameshwaram, the Supreme Lord, and the Para Prakriti to be His Swarupam. Believe that Swarupam and Swabhavam of the Lord are not distinct. Jada is bound or dependent by the dictates of Chaitanyam, which is Sarva Swatantra, and Jada is Pratantra or dependent. Jiva means that which assumes prana or vital force. The Jiva holds on to prana. Through his skill and intelligence, Jiva is the Antaryamin, who has penetrated into everything and who sustains everything. So, the Apara Prakriti is also nothing but Paramatma itself, all manifested matter with the Chaitanyam has to be realized as non-dual. Jada or inert matter and Chaitanyam consciousness are the two essential for the entire creation. The Chaitanyam, Shakti or the power of consciousness, when it entertains the idea of Bhokta or experiencer or enjoyer, expresses the world out of his Swakarma own deed. The Jada assumes the form of the Deha or body. Both these Jada and Chaitanya are my nature. Take it from me. The Ishvara who causes creation, preservation and dissolution through these is I myself. Remember, there is no substance other than me. There is no supreme reality other than me. I am the primal cause, the primal substance. Ekoham bahushyam. I am one, let me become many. Thus, I myself resolved upon this expansion into many-foldness called Srishti or creation. That resolution affected and pulsated the Maya Shakti and the Mahatattvam. God produced from that Shakti. That was the first step in the evolution of Prakriti. If a seed is planted in the earth and if it is watered, in a day or two it will drink in the moisture and swell in size. The sprouting has not yet taken place, but the first change is this. The Mahatattvam is a happening of this type. Next, in accordance with the will of the Lord, a sprout arises. That is called Maha, the Hamkaram, the primordial ego. From it, 5 leaves break forth, the subtle principles of the Panchabhutas or the 5 elements. The entire Jada Jagat is the combined product of these 8. Prakriti, Shakti, Mahatattvam, Ahamkaram and the Panchabhutas. Jai Sai Ram.
Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayat. Om